The Bride Who Waits.
Chapter 28. When Mira finally awoke, she was greeted with the smell of freshly baked bread. The scent warmed her, till she remembered her last experience before falling asleep. "Mother!" The name startled her fully awake as she struggled to get away, a strong hand stopping her as a gentle voice assured her, "It's okay, you're safe here." In that moment she saw she was in a small home, much nicer than the one she'd escaped from. An old man and woman were around her, and there were no signs of her mother. "Where am I?" "You're in our home," stated the man. The old woman looked displeased by his answer. She told Mira, "Just outside Jephthah. I'm Sybil, and this is my husband Mark. We found you sleeping in an old tree, and I had him bring you back here." "You're a lot heavier than you look," stated the man, which got him another displeased look from his wife. "We noticed your injuries. Are you running away from someone?" Remembering the woman, she felt her eyes sting, as she regretfully replied, "Yes." "Your husband," reasoned Mark. "He's the type that beats his wife?" "No, I'm not married," corrected Mira. "The scumbag," snarled the man. "Steals the best years of your life and won't even give you his name." "No, the one I'm running from is not my husband or lover. But it was someone I love." Her throat felt tight as she choked. "Someone I thought once loved me." Seeing how upset she was, the woman of the house told her, "You don't have to say anything more. Just know you're safe here, and we'll take care of you till you get feeling better." "Thank you, but I really should get moving on. I have a lot of work to do and—" Throwing off the covers of the bed, she stepped down, only to feel a wave of faintness grip her as she fell back onto the bed. "I wouldn't walk on that if I were you," advised the man. "It seems when you were getting away from your friend you hurt your ankle. You're going to have to take it easy for a good long time before you can leave." "But The woman shushed her protest, as she signaled her husband to cover her again in the blanket and make her lie back. After forcing her to eat something, she soon felt sleepy and nodded off to the sounds of the old couple's banter. The next time she woke, the man was gone and the woman was knitting something by the fire. "How long have I been out?" "Oh, about a day." She groaned as she thought of all the time wasted. "Can I just make a crutch and be on my way? I really have a lot left to do." The woman smiled sweetly as she told her, "You can rest. There are plenty of people out there doing the work in your place." "What are you talking about?" The woman's smile became warmer as she walked across the room and pulled out a set of papers, which Mira quickly recognized as being from Joshua. Taking the papers, she looked them over. "This is his handwriting. You receive letters from him?" "Not as many as we'd like, but yes, we get a few." Reading over the papers, Mira felt her resolve for staying true to Joshua increase, as she read the love in his words to the old couple. "He really is so wonderful." The woman nodded. "He is. We are very lucky to have such a loving ruler as he." She nodded. "Yes, I can't wait until he comes to take us back with him." The woman looked confused as she said, "But haven't you heard? He's already here." Hearing the words, her heart leapt till she remembered Jer and his delusions. "No, when he comes he'll bring his entire retinue. The man claiming to be the prince is just Jer in disguise. The usurper now acts as deceiver to those who did not have faith or knowledge of the true prince." "But it is him. He's even spoken with us about his letters. No one but the prince would know what he'd said in our letters. Jer has spies everywhere, intercepting the letters for him. He knows exactly what is written in them. Trust me, this man is not Joshua." At her words, the door opened and Mark came in, looking tired from a hunt. "Well, I didn't catch much today." "Mark," called the woman to the man, "this young woman is saying that Prince Joshua isn't who he says he is." As both of them looked at her, Mira felt a sudden fear for her life. Then out of the blue, Mark burst out with the words, "I knew it! I told you that so-called prince had shifty eyes. And the way he talked about our letters, it was less like he'd written them and more like he just read them. I told you, I told you." The woman looked vexed as she sighed heavily. "Yes, honey, I suppose you did. But how do we know this girl isn't the faker?" "Because she doesn't have the look in her eyes that he did. Look at her. That's pure love there. That's the look we had in our eyes when we first fell in love. She's seen the real prince, so she'd know if this one here is the real or the fake." Though she wasn't exactly sure how her eyes proved anything, that seemed enough for the couple as they nodded, as if the matter were settled in their minds. "You've really seen the prince?" "Yes, I have. Can you tell us about him?" For the rest of her time healing, she told the couple everything she could about Joshua, and about how they would really know when he did come. Finally, the day came when she was well enough to continue on her way. "Are you sure you want to be traveling on your own?" asked Sybil worriedly. "A young girl like you alone on those tough roads? Something could happen." "Ah, she'll be fine. Look at her. She's got the look of a fighter. She's not going to just lie down and let them take her." Mira nodded as she assured the woman, "I will be fine, and I hope to see you again when Joshua comes for us. You can count on it." With that, she left the old couple and continued on her journey. With the recent new year and the start of her 7th year of engagement, she still had a lot of work to do. Chapter 29. With the new year came a new climate to her teaching. Wherever she went, it seemed everyone had already made up their mind as for whose side they were on. Those who followed Jer and his false representation of Joshua reacted violently toward those who followed the true prince and treated them in the most cruel fashion. Many of the believers of the truth were forced to leave their homes and travel into the mountains where they sought refuge. It was to these small gatherings of people that Mira took her message of encouragement, as the cities became closed off to the message, as they continued in their obstinate and selfish ways. While the towns languished in their habits, the people in the mountains flourished, growing more and more in their love for one another and their hope for the soon coming of their prince. Though they did not know when he would come, they worked as if he might come any day and went about their duties in a way so that when he did come, he would not find them unready to leave with him. "We will not need anything other than ourselves," mothers told their children as they tended the fields. "He has everything we'll ever need in his kingdom." "The food is limitless," friends reminded each other. "We might be hungry now, but when we get there we will never be hungry again." Mira was delighted by the faith and hope she saw in each of their faces. Though the world around them mocked their belief that Joshua had not yet come, or that he would come, they were not discouraged, but helped encourage each other and remind everyone of the words of their prince. One day, as Mira visited a group of believers, she was met with a group of children, who looked up at her with wonderment in their eyes. "Are you really Joshua's bride?" "Not yet, but when he comes I will be." "What's he like? Is he very handsome?" "Oh yes, very handsome. But only to those that truly love him. To those that don't love him, they don't find him attractive at all." "Why not?" "Because they do not know the beauty that shines from within him. They do not recognize it, because they do not know him and the love he has for them." "That's sad." She nodded. "It is very sad. That's why we have to be building up an understanding of who he is, and his love for us now, so when he comes, we will see that beauty shining out of him." "I want to see it. Me too. Me three." She smiled at their enthusiasm as she asked them if they'd like her to teach them about his love from her own experience. "Yes, please." Taking one of their hands, she led the rest over to a clearing, where she told them of their prince and the love he had for each of them. That night she joined the group for a meal, where they happily discussed the prince and the promise of his soon coming. "I can't wait to see the look on Jair's face when he sees the prince's great retinue of men," said one man. "I just can't wait to see the dinner he'll have set out for us when we arrive at the castle." As they talked, the conversation was suddenly cut off by the sound of distressed screaming. The door to the dining hall burst open as a woman raced in, fear apparent in her eyes as she called, "The soldiers are here! Prince Jer has come after us!" Rumors had been spreading that Jer had been going out capturing the small pockets of believers, having grown tired of them. At the news that he was there, panic filled the people's hearts as they started to rise to fight back. "Wait," called Mira. "Do not fight." "And why not?" "If you do, they will just hurt us more. And the children. We cannot risk the children being hurt in the skirmish." As they gazed at her as if she were crazy, she moved to the open area of the room and knelt down on the floor to wait for the soldiers. She could tell the others were unsure of her words, but eventually they all followed suit. On arriving at the dining hall, the soldiers looked confused by the state of the people. "Why do we always seem to find them in this strange position?" inquired one soldier of another. "I wish just once they would fight back so I'd have an excuse to punch their teeth in." Without a cause for force, the soldiers bound each of the believers, being rougher with some than others, but eventually all of them were taken to the carriages, which led them down to the city. There they were placed in prison cells, with other believers who had been captured from other nearby communities. Though circumstances were bleak, they kept each other's spirits up as they talked of the kingdom and the king and the prince, who were going to come and take them to their new homes. At daybreak, the sound of the prison's main door opening woke Mira from her slumber, as she raised her eyes to see the sneering face of the false prince. "I'd heard you were here," stated Jer with a pleased look. but I could not believe it till I had seen it with my own eyes. Little Joshua's pet. I wonder if he'd still feel affection for you if he could see you now. I mean, you weren't exactly ravishing before, but now? You look like something a cat would choke up." Though he looked at her with hate in his eyes, she could only look at him with pity. It is a shame that someone who saw so much love firsthand could become so filled with hate. Has it really been worth it all, Jer? All this pain and suffering? Would you even regret it if you were given a second chance? She studied his face and replied, "No. Though the king would offer you a second chance, I can see you never take it. You've closed yourself off to love." She let out a heavy sigh. "You are as lost as the battle you have raged." The man's sneer became contemptuous as he told her, "You really should not be saying such things to someone who has your life in his hands." "The only one who has my life is Joshua. You can do all you want to me, but you will not take me from him." Slamming his hands against the bar, he woke some of the prisoners around her. "You wretched girl! No matter how many of you I throw into prison, more of you crop up. I should have never let you go to that castle. Your mother warned me what a pain you would be, and here you are causing me the most trouble of all. What do I have to do to silence you?" "Don't ask me. I'm not going to give you any ideas." With a roar of anger, he turned away, slamming the prison door shut behind him. It wasn't until lunchtime later in the day that the prison door opened again. "Finally," stated one man. "I'm famished." But it was not food, as they soon learned from the hard looks on the prison guards' faces. "Which one of you is Mira?" grunted one of the men. One of the ladies started to stand up, but Mira pushed her back. "No, let's not waste their time. I am Mira." With swords drawn, the men made everyone else step back as they opened the door and made her step through. "Seems you're gonna be our starting number," stated one of the guards with a dark grin. "What does that mean?" asked one of the believers. "Quiet, you!" snapped the first guard. "No, let's tell them." With a cold look that reminded Mira of Jer, the guard told those left in the prison cell, "Prince Joshua has decided it's time he quashed this rebellion, and to start it off, he's going to end your precious queen's life." Crying out in protest, the people began to slam against the bars till Mira quieted them. "It is all right. Stay strong. I have done my part. If it is time for me to go, then it is time. I was lucky enough to have face-to-face time with my prince, and no matter what happens, I will not give up on him. But I will not do anything to jeopardize your chance at having your own experience with him. So hold on. He will come soon enough." Growing impatient, the men pulled her away and out to the outer room of the prison. There, they roughly forced her to dress in a wedding garment as a sick joke. "Go to meet your precious prince," they taunted. Once they were done with her clothes, they pushed her to the outer courtyard, where a crowd of people had gathered to watch the event. On spotting her, the crowd erupted with cheers and admonitions for finally capturing the ringleader of the rebellion. "Off with the head!" cried one woman. "Hang her high!" called a man. "Burn her at the stake!" suggested another. Pushing her forward, the guards led her to a platform, where she looked down at the jeering crowd. To the right, Jer called down to the group of people from a seat in the balcony of the prison's walls. "My good people, you see before you the most vile of women. Look on her and be disgusted on the figure she presents. She is claimed to be my bride, but who would ever call someone like her a wife?" Looking to his side, Jer held out his hand as a hand reached from behind the curtain and touched his. Then from behind the veil, Lois stepped into view, arrayed in the finest purple cloth, and covered from head to foot in the finest gold jewelry. At the sight of their queen, the crowd cried out in joy. They then turned and hissed at Mira in her simple white dress. "I have put up with her accusations against me long enough," called Jer over the crowd's angry calls. "But enough is enough. I shall finally end her tyranny by ending her life." The crowd called out their assent, and the music started to play as they danced about. Vats of wine were brought out, and the crowd greedily drank as her execution became a celebration. "My people!" called Jer again, to which he only got a few of the revelers' attention. "It is time. Let this woman pay for her sedition." At these words, the ground beneath her began to shake, as the cries of the crowd grew louder. In one moment, they were crying out for her death. In the next, they were crying out with exclamations of fear, as they began to run from the place. "What's going on?" called one guard to another, confused by the people's fear. Under their feet, the ground began to shake as rocks skittered across the ground. "Look, it's him! The real prince, he's here!" From his balcony seat, Jared called down to the people to stand their ground, that they could take Joshua and his army. But the people heard none of it, as they continued to fight their way out, ahead of the others with him. As the rumbling sound drew closer, the prison walls began to vibrate, and large stones fell from the walls to the ground. One rock fell into the balcony, just missing Jared as it crushed Lois, whose scream was cut off by her death. "How is this possible?" called Jared to no one, as he stared at his fallen queen. Outside the walls, the sound of hoofbeats drew closer, as the army of the returning prince drew near. As they rode in, she heard ahead of them the sound of trumpets, jubilant with the news that they had finally come. "I don't understand it," she heard one guard cry from atop the wall. "It's like he's coming from every direction at once. How can there be so many of them?" "Because the ones with him are more than them against him," stated Mira with a smile. As the crowds of jeers fled, those within the prison who had been jailed with her came out into the courtyard as the doors shook open ahead of them. Out in the courtyard, their cheers joined the screams of the fleers, whose voices were already fading away in the sounds of the hoofbeats. "He's here! Our prince is finally here!" Several fell on their knees as they cried out in joy. "When he said he was bringing everyone with him, he wasn't kidding," stated one believer to another. From the arch through which the crowd had left, 2 men clad in white armor came through, looking round at the cheering throng. "Hooray! Prince Joshua's finally here! Our prince has finally come!" Removing their helmets, the soldiers smiled at the people's overjoyed expressions. "The prince has come to take his people home," said one man to the crowd. "Are you ready to go?" As one, they replied with great fervor, "Yes!" Chapter 30. The procession back to the castle was a joyous one. There were plenty of carts for those that couldn't walk on their own, and all were furnished with the softest of pillows. With a speed unlike anyone had ever seen before, Joshua and his men had come from every side of Beth Natesh, taking all those who were ready for him with them as they headed to the center. Even from a great distance the army of white could be seen, their banners flapping in the wind with the crest of the reigning prince. It was no secret to anyone that the reigning monarch had finally come to take his people home. Among the group of believers, Mira spotted Isabel, who was sitting in a cart along with Tomas, who was walking along beside. It wasn't until she was closer to the car that she noticed her friend was holding a baby, which was playing with her hair. "Isabel!" At the sight of her friend, the woman almost leapt out of the cart, forgetting about the baby as Tomas pushed her back. "Whoa there." "Mira, I'm so glad to see you're still alive. I had heard so many reports you'd been killed. I was worried about you too. What happened after you left?" "We went around as we said we would, and along the way, I guess." She looked to Tomas, who shrugged. "We fell in love." "What?" "Yes, we're married now, and this little one is ours." Holding the baby up so Mira could see, she noted the resemblance. "We named him Eliashib, for he shall not be forsaken, but shall be restored to his rightful home." Mira smiled as she greeted the baby. "That's a lovely name." "I thought of you when I named him." The look in her friend's eyes told her there was more in her words than she was saying. With more solemnity in her voice, she thanked her friend again. "I'm glad you have found your joy." Ahead of them, the crowd began to cheer with renewed vigor. Turning toward the sound, Isabel asked what was going on. "I don't know." As the cheering drew closer, she spotted a single rider coming down the line against the crowd. He stopped at each of the carriages, as if to check on them, as the occupants within looked overjoyed at the sight of him. "Who's that?" asked Tomas, as he strained to see the man's face across the distance. "I'm not sure, but I think I saw that horse at the front of the army," replied Isabel. Finally the rider drew closer, and they were able to make out his face. He was a handsome man with a pleasant face and strong features. As he came upon their wagon, his searching eyes came to rest on Isabel, as he pulled his mount to a halt. "Isabel!" The woman seemed confused at the man knowing her name. "Yes, do I know you?" "Excuse me, sir." Mira stepped closer to the man, who looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Do you know where Joshua is? Is he at the front leading the procession? Is there a way I might get word to him? You see, I'm Mira." Her name was like a breath of life from his lips, as her eyes went up to his, and in that moment she recognized him. Joshua. The reason for the crowd's cheering became apparent, as she realized the prince was among them. Dropping to her knees, she cast her eyes down as she bowed to him. "My master." She heard his feet hit the ground as he leapt down, kneeling beside her as he lifted her chin up, smiling as she gazed into his eyes. I've been told on my way through the crowd that a lot of the people here never receive my letters. Jared was especially careful to intercept most of them. They tell me they are here because my bride could not stop talking about me. His pleased expression made her flush as she looked down again. I couldn't just sit by and twiddle my thumbs while I waited for you. She raised her eyes as she stated with a smile. You did take a while. 2,506 days to be exact. His smile was apologetic as he said, I'm sorry. I've been counting the days as well, but I had to wait till my father approved my work. But the men were all ready to go as soon as he gave the go-ahead. At the mention of the readiness, she remembered her mother's want for her to be ready with a fine garment and sparkling gems. Knowing she did not look anything like a ready bride, she apologized to Joshua as she said, I guess I probably should have spent more time on making myself presentable. What are you talking about? You've never looked more beautiful. Without giving her a chance to respond, he leapt back up in the saddle, then pulled her up to the back of his horse. Turning the horse around, he called to the crowd, We're going home, and when we get there, I'm going to marry the one I've waited for. To this the crowd cheered all the louder, as Joshua whooped with glee. Behind him, Mira smiled as she wrapped her arms around her betrothed. It was good to be home. Even if they had tried making the wedding a simple affair, it would have failed. The entire front of the castle was done up with tables and chairs, to account for the great throng of people in attendance at the feast. To make the events of the day easier, everyone had been seated at a table, so they could be served their meals as the wedding went on. Each place setting had been decorated in a lavish manner, which only made the lawn of the castle grounds look more enchanting. Back inside the castle, Mira watched through the window as the servants finished setting up the last of the decorations. Mira! Her friend's voice sounded impatient, as she called for her to come away from the window. It all looks so lovely. I don't deserve such a wedding. Yes, you do. You waited 7 years for this. You both have. And I can tell Joshua is trying to make up for every day you were apart with this grand wedding. Mira smiled at her friend's fiery demeanor. I'm so glad the day is finally here. So are we, honey. We've been waiting right alongside you. Turning, she smiled as Candace entered the room, along with a young lady who was dressed in a cute pink frock. Breaking away from the hairdressers, who were styling her hair, Mira embraced the woman. I'm so glad to see you. And what about me? Inquired the young lady with an incredulous look. At the flash of her big blue eyes, she recognized her in a moment. Oh, Rebecca, you've grown so much. I barely recognized you. Same to you. The girl's look was hard, but became elated as she said, You're so beautiful. Oh, that's just the dress and jewels. No, you really are. Have you not seen yourself? Isabel said she hadn't, as Rebecca forced her to a mirror. Look! Though she protested, as soon as her eyes came to rest on the reflective surface, the words left her lips as she stared at herself. That's not me. It is. Touching the glass, she realized it wasn't a painting. This was truly her. Your love has made you beautiful, stated Candace simply. And now, started Isabel, as she forced Mira back to her chair, it's time you got ready for that love and stopped making him wait. The music started light and slow, as the bridesmaids made their way down the aisle ahead of her. Each was dressed in a simple white dress, but each looked as pretty as if they were dressed in the finest garments. Ahead of them Joshua smiled, looking radiant in his most princely attire. The platform on which he stood had been set up with an arbor behind, from which his prized grapes glistened like purple rubies in the sunlight. At the back, Mira clutched her bouquet of lilies with nervous expectation, as the beginning sounds of a wedding march began to ring out. Though he was still a great distance from her, she could picture his sparkling eyes clearly in her mind. The thought quickened her steps, as her bare feet treaded along the silken, silvery path leading to the front. Dressed in a simple white gown, with a garland of 12 stars, she heard people in the crowd comment on how her train made her look like she was being followed by the rays of the sun. Another said she looked like she was clothed with the sun. None of these comments on her appearance concerned her, as all she could think about was the man she loved. Drawing closer to him, everything around her began to fade away, as she only heard the sounds of her excited heart beating within her chest. Soon she did not even notice anyone around her, not Mark and Sybil, who waved to her happily, not the 10 other women who had been in the finals with her, not even the orphans or the thousands of people she had taught about Joshua, and who had waited along with her for his coming. All she saw was him, and he was the loveliest thing of all. On reaching the front, he took her hand, as the king himself officiated and called to the crowd, Today, not only does my son claim this woman as his wife, but he also claims your people's land as his own. From now on, you shall not be called Beth Matesh, but Lo Hazuba, for you are no longer forsaken." At the mention of the words, Mira felt her heart ache with guilt, as she remembered how she had not told him the most important thing of all. "Joshua, before we go on, I have to tell you something. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, but I just never had the time or courage." "Whatever it is, it will not change my mind. You are the one I love and the one I'm going to marry." "But you might change your mind. Just wait until you hear." With a pained breath for courage, she finally told him the truth. "My name is not Mira. It is Azuba. It means forsaken." "I know. It is to her I sent the invitation. But I am not only forsaken in name, I am also forsaken in body. You will never be able to have children, Joshua. There was a great famine in the land once upon a time, and after it ended, my body never recovered. I am desolate as a woman and will be so as your wife." Taking her hands to his lips, he kissed them as he shook his head. "No, you will never be forsaken as my wife. If we cannot have children, we shall adopt and fill our house with their laughter. The orphans of Beth Tesh shall become our children. The forsaken shall be found, and none shall be without family or love in our home." "But Joshua, I don't think you're really thinking this through." "I am, and I have. Mira, Azuba, today, as I take you as my wife, I not only accept you, but I give you a new name. No longer will you be called forsaken or rebellious, but Delight." Turning to the crowd, he called to them, "Today, I do not marry a forsaken woman, but one who is loved by all." To this the crowd cheered. "I also do not marry a rebellious wife, but one that is faithful, even to the threat of death. Instead, today, I marry a woman who has brought me nothing but delight, and from now on she should be called—" He turned to her, his eyes sparkling as he gave her the new name, Eden. Epilogue. The forsaken woman had been found. She had become a delight among her people and to the one who called her his own. Her lover clothed her in the finest garments and jewels, then carried her home to the house he had built for them with his hands, pouring his love into each nail and board. She cried when she saw it, overcome with her feelings of unworthiness for his affection. In his arms he carried her into the home, where they would live forever. In the morn when she awoke, a sweet smell wafted in through the lattice windows. Out through the doors, she saw a sea of rippling jewels, a field of every color and type of lily ever known. Their petals caressed her bare legs as she made her way through. Stopping in the middle to enjoy it, she heard a sound. Listening, she heard him approach. Her eyes closed as she waited with expectation, waited to hear the soft sound of his voice as he called to her, Eden. With a smile more radiant than the sun, she turned to meet him. Her lover, her beloved, her home. I, my beloved, to my beloved is mine. He browses among the lilies. Song of Solomon 6:3. Never mind. My lover is already on his way to his garden, to browse among the flowers, touching the colors and forms. I, my lover's, and my lover is mine. He caresses the sweet-smelling flowers. Song of Solomon 6:3, the message. The end. The Bride Who Waits, an allegory by Elliot. Cover art by Lydia Thacker. Narration by Elliot Dillon.